And welcome back to another edition of NASCAR DFS Preview. I'm AustYn.
And I am Yacs.
And we are going to Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's going to be a home race for the Sports Chief as we're based in Charlotte.
It says Charlotte. It says NC,
Crap.
but we're Charlotte.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah, so this is a home
Area.
track. Yeah. So we have to perform well at this one, right? So
Absolutely.
we're at the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So as you all know, this is the longest race of the season by 100 miles. Of course, this is the old World 600. 400 laps of 1.5 mile high speed racing.
Yep.
So we just left the road course, which unfortunately we didn't get the chance to do the video with the qualifying like an hour before the race. I mean, you know, a little more than that, but it's a little short notice. And we are excited that practice and qualifying is kind of semi-returned, at least for this race anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really excited for that. That way we can kind of break down our strategies a little different than what we do before. Especially, it was purely off historic stats before. This time it'll be a little bit more about performance and speed, things like that. So yeah, you got anything to add there?
Nothing that you already said before. I think you pretty much covered it.
Yeah. So
how did you do last week at Coda? Didn't
do very well.
Yeah, it was a tough race to really gauge anything off of, and the conditions were just horrible. So
Yeah, and I had to kind of think of how I did, but
Yeah.
I did have Christopher Bell.
I didn't do well.
And he wrecked whenever they were out there and had no business racing, basically. So that was unfortunate. And I know a lot of people had Truex. I did fade Truex.
I had Truex.
I didn't go Chase Elliott, which I always do at road courses. Didn't this time. But yeah, it was a totally different race than what we're used to, for sure.
I think 3 of my guys were already out of the race by like the halfway point. So it was a rough week last week, even though we didn't get to do a video. It was a rough week. I think a lot of you guys had a rough week too.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah, and it's a thing where like the mile and a half tracks to me are my bread and butter. They're a little easier to predict, especially if you have watched racing for a long time. You kind of have an idea of how they're gonna play out. Now, of course, you have certain things that are just out of your control. Typically, they're a driver that I pick that hits the wall or something. A la Xfinity, Cody Ware just drilled the wall. So, we might have something like that happen. But, yeah, so this race is a little different. It is a very rough racetrack. Each tires, so they're having 13 sets for the Cup race, which is a lot. But then again, it's 600 miles. So, you're going to want 4 fresh tires every time you come down. 2-tire pit stops will not be a thing at all because the way the tire pressures are as well. It's like 50 PSI on the right side and then like less than 20 on the left.
Yeah, those things will get ate up pretty quick.
Yep, and also they're using the same tire as last year, which is a good little nugget there. Also, they're using the same tire as they used at Homestead and Darlington, so that's something that I looked at, the results from those 2 races specifically. I looked more into that. More so than practice, because they did get to run 10 lap averages, but they were like the only series that did, so we did look at that a little bit. But so yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that there.
Yeah, and I don't have anything to add either.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and see what DraftKings has to offer here. So they did their pricing, of course, before qualifying. So ultimately, they're picking the best performing drivers. So you have Kyle Larson starting on the pole, had a hot lap at 11.3. So we have 6 drivers in the 10K range. He's one of them.
He said he was slow.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I kind of knew this with Hendrick signing Larson. Guess I can go that route. I knew that Larson was going to perform very well. I don't know that I expected him to be this good, but he's been amazing. So he's at 11.3. Martin Truex Jr. starting in 8th at 11.1. Denny Hamlin starting in 14th at 10.8. Chase Elliott starting in 3rd at 10.5. Kyle Busch starting in 20th at 10.2. And Kevin Harvick, actually 10K, starting in 5th. So, breaking this down for you, Kyle Larson with that track position, which is very crucial at Charlotte. A lot of your drivers that start up front do finish well. And there is passing at this race, but you really have to do well in the tire management category in this track. So Kyle Larson has never really performed all that well here. I did not get his average finish career-wise written down, but I know that he's never won here in the Cup Series.
It was like 20 in the last 4.
Yeah.
It was like in that range.
Yeah, and he's just okay here, but he's great at mile and a half this year, so you would think that he's going to run well. Also, he ran well at Homestead and Darlington. He finished second or Top 5 at Homestead.
And he won at Vegas,
Yep.
right? Yeah, Vegas, wasn't it?
Pretty sure, yes.
Yeah, he won at Vegas, which is not terribly far off from Charlotte. It's a little more eased out in the turns, but it's not too far off. I mean, it's one of those cookie cutter mile and a halves.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep. So, in looking at statistics, there was one driver that I just could not pass up with that starting spot, and that is Martin Truex Jr. So he's starting in 8th. He's 11-1. I remember picking Truex whenever he led 392 of the 400 laps. And that was amazing to have him in a DraftKings lineup, let me tell you. That point total was astronomical. I don't even remember what it was now. But you could about have 2 cars wrecked and you'd be fine. So I like Truex in that spot, especially in 8th, because I do feel like he was my favorite to win the race. One of the reasons being is in his career, he's got an average finish of 13.6, which is pretty good. But he's got 3 wins, and those 3 wins have came in his last 10 starts. Those last 10 starts, he's got an average finish of 4.4. That's crazy good. This is his track. He ran well. I'm trying to think. Did he win it? He won at Darlington. He dominated at Darlington.
Mm-hmm.
So being that he won at Darlington, I really like his odds because it's the same kind of tire. They probably have a little upper edge, and Truex is probably the best at managing equipment. So I've got Martin Truex Jr. there. That leaves us with a remaining salary of $77.80. Kyle Busch is interesting, starting in the 20th spot. He's very good here. He won a race here, but he's only won one at Charlotte Motor Speedway, period. So he looked really fast in practice. He was a top 5 car for sure. But another driver, I'm just going to keep scrolling down here. So another driver that really caught my eye in terms of speed is Tyler Reddick. So he's starting in 15th. He's at 8,200. I'm going to pull the trigger on Tyler Reddick. Reason being is his average finish is 11th. I understand he's only got a couple starts, but he's really good in the Xfinity Series here too as well. He won a race here. And I really like him to get a top 10. So we're pulling for Tyler Reddick, especially at 8,200. Coke 600 tends to have weird winners, and I don't think Tyler Reddick would be a weird winner, but this could be a track that he could come out. You know, Austin Dillon's won here before in the 3 car. Really like Tyler Reddick there in that spot. I knew if he was below 8,500 or so, I was going to pull the trigger on him. So that leaves us with 7,600. All right, so let's keep scrolling down here. So we got, you know, the Penske cars. Ryan Blaney starting in 11th, Logano 16th, Keselowski 13th, DiBenedetto's in 22nd. Christopher Bell starting in 17th. I believe that's the highest. Well, Kyle Busch is in 20th. Hamlin's in 14th. Truex was by far the fastest in the Joe Gibbs camp. Kurt Busch is actually another driver that's very good here. His last 10, he's got 8 top 10s. His average finish is 10.4. So, in the law of averages, you know, if he's starting in 12th, more than likely he's going to finish above where he started. So you got positive EV there at 8,400. And I was really teetering on Reddick and Kurt Busch.
Going back to that Martin Truex thing, I just looked up a site where it shows all the history of the DraftKings points. 197 points.
That day?
197.
It's got to be the highest.
Oh, I'd say it's absolutely the highest. 197.
It's wild. And, you know, it's not a short track, so it's like, you know, it's a 1.5 mile track. And it's so important to pick those kind of drivers that you feel like are going to run well.
Yep.
And, you know, in picking Tyler Reddick, I might be a little overzealous, but I really liked him at this track at the beginning of the year, actually. Kind of had him pegged for the Coke 600. But hopefully he runs well in the Xfinity race, and then that'll kind of give me a good idea. Another thing about Truex. I'm just popping out Truex facts. Out of the 3,000 and some laps in the last 10 starts, he's led over 1,000. Mm-hmm. So he's led a third of the laps that's been ran in the last 5-6 years. It's kind of wild.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like he'll be a pretty highly owned pick, but Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch are starting in really good spots. So that's why I love qualifying. I love that it kind of pulls the pressure off of some people.
Yeah.
So, scrolling down here, let's go to the lowest price drivers we would possibly want to choose. And honestly, Justin Haley's not a bad thought. He's at 4,800. He's driving for a Walmart 77 car, so I know he's got sponsorship money, but
yeah,
I don't know how well the car performed. He wasn't very fast in practice.
Where's he starting?
30th.
Yeah,
that's about where he'll end up, more than likely. He might get a top 25, but I am actually going to I'm going to go ahead and pull a trigger on some driver that I've never picked in the Cup Series. That is Anthony Alfredo. So Anthony Alfredo starting in 29th spot in the Death Wish Coffee Ford. Looking at Alfredo's stats, the past few races, he has been finishing in the top 25 or better, actually. I can click his name here, just show you. So he got 18th at the road course, 28th, 26th, 23rd, 12th. He's running pretty well here. The Homestead and Darlington thing kind of worries me a little bit. He did finish 26th at Darlington, which is not bad. So if he gets 26, I actually like that, and I want to pay up for other drivers is the reason why I went with him. The only thing that I could caution you against going out Anthony Alfredo in price range, Corey LaJoie is pretty good here, but 26th, if LaJoie would be in 28th or better or lower, I'd pick him. 26 just seems like where he'll finish.
Yeah.
Michael McDowell in 24th was, I really thought hard about it. He finished 6th at Homestead. He did get 27th at Darlington. He ran okay, but the 6th finish at Darlington or Homestead was almost swayed me to pick him. But I feel like Alfredo, the reason why I'm going to roll with him is because of the ownership. I don't think people are going to pick him. And I feel like, again, the Coke 600 does tend to allow the lower tier drivers to perform a little better than what they're expected. I don't know why. But, I mean, look at Jamie McMurray won here. Austin Dillon's won here. Casey Mears won here. A lot of those drivers do perform well, and I'm hoping I pick the right ones.
Yeah.
So, $8,400, that does save us a ton of cap space. And the other driver that I'm going to pop off here, there's two drivers that I really wanted to go with, and that was Bowman or Byron, and I'm pulling the trigger on William Byron starting in 4th. $9,200, he's the cheapest Hendrick Motorsports option. Chase Elliott starting in 3rd, and Kyle Larson is the most expensive on the poll. Alex Bowman has ran very well at Charlotte in the past couple starts. He led more than 40 laps, I'm sure, in both starts last year. I can't remember exactly where he finished, but William Byron did dominate at Homestead, and he ran pretty well at Darlington. You click it here, and he finished 4th. I really like him to get a top 5 at least, and I think he'll be a little lower owned because I do believe there are other drivers in that area, Keselowski, Bowman, Blaney, and Logano, that'll be higher owned.
It's pretty crazy. He's only 9,200.
I mean, he's got 12 top 10s, know? And in all reality, he's better than Chase Elliott this year in DraftKings. I mean, 37.7 is Chase's average, so Byron is better.
Yeah.
He's better than Kyle, Harvick, Keselowski, Bowman, Blaney. He's not as good as Logano, which I'll get to that here in a minute. But it's like, look at those numbers. It's pretty wild. Yep. Austin Dillon was one I really wanted to roll with, but he's starting in 6th. That's too high. Too high. I think he could finish around there. Eric Almirola, never again. Starting in 31st. He'll drill the wall. Just not going to do it.
He's just off this year. I don't know what's going on with him.
That whole team is just bad right now.
Well, Custer's not running well either.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just not even going to entertain that. 7,900. Maybe if he was 6 something. And there was also another driver before qualifying. I wanted to pick Ricky Stenhouse. That was I thought I had a great pick there.
Yeah.
Nope. Starting in 2nd.
Running really well.
So, yeah. And, I mean, it's a Hendrick car. So, it's JTG, but it's Hendrick engines. And it's just so hard. You could pick him, and he would be very lowly owned, and you will look like a genius if he goes out there and leads 100 laps.
Yeah. I
don't see that happening, but, miracles do happen.
Don't rule it out.
Yeah. You got a pretty good sponsor in Continental. They make a pretty good product. So
yeah.
He might be able to go out there and show what
Yeah.
Like there's a shortage on toilet papers. I don't know where I'm going with that. So anyway, so we have an average remaining salary of $8,000. So what are we gonna do here? We're gonna pull the trigger on Chris Buescher starting in 27th. You got Ross Chastain 10th. Nope. Bubba Wallace 18th. Nope. Eric Jones 19th. Nope. Suarez 9th. It's intriguing. He'll be lowly owned, but could he get a top 10? If you feel like he will, pull the trigger. Ryan Preece starting in 28th was another one that I wanted to pull. I'm saying I want to pull the trigger a lot.
I feel like I said that a lot at the, what was it, Dover? Last video we did. I feel like I said that like 10 times.
So Preece is a driver that intrigued me. How about that?
There you go.
Because of Stenhouse's hot lap, I'm like, why is Preece so much slower? That car can't be that much different. Preece is not that good here, though. So I'm going with Chris Buescher, starting in 27th. $6,700 for a driver that averages 32 points per race is insane. Chris Buescher also led a lot of laps at Homestead. He led 57 laps, and he finished 19th and 9th at Darlington. So, Positive EV air all around there. So I know Buescher will be highly owned. I'm sure people are going to go after Buescher, especially at that price point.
He's a good value. He's a good value on FanDuel, too.
It's hard to ignore it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with him. I've got some forwards in here. I got Buescher, Alfredo, and I'm going to go one more forward here. So now we have Ryan Blaney, Logano, and Bell's our top options. Ryan Blaney starting in 11th, Joey Logano in 16th. I'm going with Joey Logano. Why on earth is Joey Logano below 9,000? Seriously. Why? I mean, he's got 10 top 10s this year. He's average finish of 41.7. Why is he that cheap? I don't get it. In the last 10, Joey Logano has got the second best average finish. He's right below Truex. He's with Kurt Busch and Truex. I guess like 10th or 11th. His average finish is 12th anyway. So, like, overall, he's won only one race, but 11 top 10s. He's very consistent here. I mean, it's kind of worth the gamble, right? He's starting in 16th. It's pretty obvious. Now, the only thing that I would maybe, if you're going a different strategy here, if you're not going to go Truex, pull the trigger on Larson. Go with Larson there, and then I would go Alex Bowman starting in 7th. That gives you a little bit more freeway or leaning towards, other drivers there. But, you can Bowman and Larson, and then,
That looked pretty good, too.
Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, you get Truex and Byron. I like that. I'm just for the simple fact that I'm going with Darlington and Homestead, so.
I like that one better.
Yeah.
I like the Truex and Byron combo better.
Reddick finished really well. He finished 12th at Darlington, but he actually ran better than that. Then he finished 2nd, I believe, at Homestead.
Yeah. He's really good at Homestead.
So, and if I'm going through here making a very quick lineup, and if I really truly believe in Kyle Busch, I'd pull the trigger on him. I'd probably go Joey Logano as well. If you believe in Eric Almirola, this is a cash game strategy. Chris Buescher, and you got 8,200. Well, would I go lower than that? Probably not. I'd probably go Kurt Busch and then Cole Custer. But anyway, let's just clean it up here. I'll show you what I got. So we got Martin Truex Jr. starting in 8th at 11-1. William Byron starting in 4th at 9-2. Joey Logano starting in 16th at 8-8. Tyler Reddick starting in 15th at 8-2. Scroll down. Chris Buescher starting in 27th at 6-7. And rounding out our lineup is Anthony Alfredo. Never picked him. Starting in 29th. Got a cool looking Death Wish coffee Ford. So 5,500. Throw it over to you, Yachts.
Alrighty. Circuit of the Americas last week we didn't get to do a video, but if you did a FanDuel lineup, you'll notice one thing. There are, I call the 12,000 and up the first tier. There's normally 5. They've upped the price. They've added a 14.5 price point.
Wow.
So there's 6 in the tier 1 now. So that's gonna make things a little more interesting, and we'll see how that plays out during the year. But we're just gonna right off the bat, one of them out of tier 1. He's got to win at some point. Denny Hamlin. He runs really well at Charlotte, although he has never had a win at Charlotte. He has never had a win at Charlotte except in the Xfinity Series. He won one race in the Xfinity Series. That is it. He doesn't have a win at Charlotte. He doesn't have a win this year. He's ran really well this year. He didn't do that great last week, but he's been the best driver all year as far as the season as a whole. He's been the best driver, and I feel like I'm just going to pick him until he wins.
Well,
but in the 14th starting spot, that's a good climb to make, and I think if he's running in the end, he'll be in the top 5. He'll be in the top, definitely the top 10. So there's just so little risk, I feel like, picking Denny Hamlin. He is the 5th highest price guy this week, and he gets the most points. So keep doing it as much as you can. I feel like keep getting that value, and that's what we preach on these videos. Just get the best value that you can. We will revisit the tier 1 here in a little bit, though. We're going to move on down all the way to the bottom. These guys, they'll just get lapped. I was about to say that there wasn't
More.
I was about to say there wasn't a 2000. They moved that up, but they didn't. I think there's only one less 2000 driver. But I really just say don't give these guys consideration because mile and a half they get lapped. They won't be competitive. Anthony Alfredo, I really considered Anthony Alfredo starting at 29th. I think this could be a race to get him going. And 600 miles, a lot can happen.
Yeah.
So 29th spot's good for him. Considering how well Ricky Stenhouse has been performing in practice and how well he did in qualifying, I really considered Ryan Preece too, 28th. But he doesn't have, like Austin said, he doesn't have a good track record here at Charlotte. So we're not going with him this week. Eric Jones looked decent in practice. But he's starting 19th. I think that's probably about where he'll finish in that 43 car. I can't really see him. He could get a top 15, but I'm not seeing anything past that. Ryan Newman was one of these guys, and I think before qualifying happened, he was a guy that I was wanting to circle because Ryan Newman's decent everywhere. He's probably not going to get you a top 10, but he could get right at the top 10. And starting 25th, I think he's a guy you can take advantage of at 5,500. But the same guy, 5,500, Daniel Suarez, he's been running well this weekend. I really wanted to consider him, but starting in 9th, that's just I think there's better drivers at that point.
Yeah.
At a similar price point. Moving on up, Chase Briscoe, he's racing in the Xfinity race, right? Yeah. He qualified pretty good. He's just not done well this year, along with Almirola and Custer. Like I said earlier, the Stewart Haas is just they're off kilter this year. Other than Harvick, Harvick's I won't say the same old Harvick, but he's not far off. He's similar. But we're going to move up a little bit. And we're thinking like Austin this week. 6,500, Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher, he ran his 200th race last week. It doesn't seem like he's been there that long. Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy. 17.5 in his last 6. But the thing I wanted to focus on with Chris Buescher is how well he's been running at intermediate tracks, I'll call it, this year. Mile and a half, little slightly under. You know what intermediate tracks are. He's only had one finish below top 15 at intermediate tracks this year. And if I'm not mistaken, 4 of those, there's only been 5 races at intermediate tracks. 4 of those are top 10s. I think 4 of those were within the top 10 because I said one finished below. But 3 of those are top 10s. So he's got 3 top 10s at intermediate tracks this year. That's hard to pass up on at 6,500 when you know he can run that well. And he's starting in 27th. And he gets you 50 points per game. 50 fantasy points per game. I mean, if you look up, we'll go back up. 50. Ryan Blaney's 52. He's like 5th in points.
Yep.
I mean, Brad Keselowski, he's a former champion. That's good value.
Kyle's 52.
That is great value.
Yep.
It's 6,500. He was pretty similar in DraftKings too. I don't remember exactly how much he was, but he was low priced and he'll be picked a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's a guy that you can't afford to not put in your lineup. Just based off of the starting position and how well he runs at mile and a halves and intermediate tracks. But we'll get into the intermediate tracks a little later on. That's really what I wanted to focus on because there's enough of a sample size this year already that you can say, is he running well here or is he not? And he's running well at mile and a halves. Michael Mcdowell, I really wanted to pick Michael Mcdowell because he's also running pretty solid at mile and a half. 24th starting spot's pretty good for him. He could get you a top 15 easily. 6,500. I was down between at that price point between him and Buescher, but I ultimately went Buescher. We'll see how it happens in the race, but If we move up, yeah, I'm not. I've got burnt too many times. Eric Almirola, 36 points per game. That's just not good. In FanDuel, it's not. Austin Dillon was intriguing, but starting in 6th, he may be a guy that a lot of people stay away from, but that could work to your advantage. He is a former Coca-Cola 600 winner, and he's ran well here. He's run pretty well all year long. 8,500 that's a good price for him, I think, too. But we're not going to go with him. We are going to go. I'll move it up just a little bit. I'm going to cut it off at Stenhouse, and we're going to go with Tyler Reddick. Austin went Tyler Reddick as well. But in the 2 races, the 2 races last year during the pandemic, he has an 11th place average finish in his 2 races. But there were some other things to consider about Tyler Reddick. He's won here in the Xfinity Series. In fact, he's the only guy in the Xfinity race today that's won a race in the Xfinity Series at Charlotte. So that's pretty wild, I think. But Tyler Reddick has ran well just lately in the season. 6 top 10s in the last 8. He's kind of flew under the radar.
A little bit.
And another thing I wanted to mention about him, he was 3rd among the practice times, the 10 lap average. He was 3rd. So
to mention that. Yep.
He's running consistently well this weekend. So starting in 15th, I think he'll get you a top 10. I feel like. I mean, it's not a guarantee. It's not a lock. Nothing's a lock, but
yeah.
But I think he'll get you a top 10 because he runs well at Homestead. That's going to be a similar tire model. And you said Darlington, right?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure he ran well at Darlington too. 8,700. That's a good price for him. That's about what he is anyway. But that's a good price point this week, especially. I already talked about Austin Dillon. I'll just go ahead and get it out of the way. Ricky Stenhouse, I'm going with him. Starting in 2nd. I would advise not picking him in DraftKings, but FanDuel, I think you could really benefit by picking somebody like Ricky Stenhouse. Starting in 2nd, will he probably finish? Well, he's only got 1 spot to go up. I was about to say, can he finish above? He can. I'm not saying he will. He probably won't. But the thing you want out of Ricky Stenhouse is possibly laps led. Take a gamble on him. Maybe he'll lead, I don't know, 50 laps, 60 laps. I mean, it could happen. It's a 400 lap race. He's starting in 2nd. He's running well in practice. He's good at Charlotte. 11.8 in his last 6. And before you say, oh, that's all Roush, he had a top 5 last year in the 47 car. So he's just good here. 3 top 10s in the last 4 at Charlotte. 2 of those came from Roush. One of them came from JTG Daugherty. But another thing, like Tyler Reddick, he was 4th in the 10 lap average at practice. So he's right there.
Fast.
Yeah, he's fast. And Daniel Suarez, I think, was just below him if you really want to consider him. But I think Ricky Stenhouse is the safer pick if you can afford it. That leaves us 14.6 to spend, so we can spend it on anybody. Mm-hmm. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, Martin Truex, probably. That's what we're going to spend it on. Well, we're not. Martin Truex is awesome here. Martin Truex, I think, has a 3.7 average finish in his last 6. He's awesome here. He leads a lot of laps here. But a lot of people, I think, are going to be considering him. And that's what I feel like my lineup as is. You're going to have a lot of guys probably picking Denny Hamlin because he runs well here. Chris Buescher, I think a lot of people will pick him. I don't think so many people are going to pick Tyler Reddick, and I don't think hardly anybody's going to pick Stenhouse. I mean, I just have that feeling. Maybe that may not be the case, but second starting spot, nobody's going to pick him.
Less than 10.
And I think you have enough of a mixture as is with my lineup here that you can go somebody chalky. But we're not going to go Truex. We're going to go with Kyle Busch. 13.5. He's ran okay as of late. He had a stretch there where he was running really well. He even won a race. I think that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't even remember where it was, but he won a race. 11.3 average in his last 6 at Charlotte. But the thing I really wanted to focus on with this, and this is ultimately my decision in the last 6, Martin Truex has led a lot of laps, but he's second. He's second in laps led in the last 6. And the only person to beat him is Kyle Busch. So that was, I know that's kind of a little weird way to pick it, but that's what I wanted to do. I'm taking that 12 position differential there, calculating that into it. And if Kyle Busch runs well, that's just more points added to it. Mm-hmm. And you know he can run well here, and he's proven that time and time again. I think he's only the lap leader in the last 6 by I want to say 15 or 20 laps, but still, it's a foot race between Truex and Kyle Busch. That's for sure. Who's leading the laps? At intermediate tracks, this is really the main thing that I wanted to focus on, how well they've performed at intermediate tracks. All the intermediate tracks he has top 10s at. 4 of those are top 5s. So he's running well at mile and a half. He's running well at these intermediate tracks, and that's really what I wanted to focus on. Well, there you have it. I'm going to clean it up. Kyle Busch, I think I said all I needed to say about Kyle Busch. Starting in 20th, I think he'll be picked a decent amount. I think he will be picked a lot, actually. But starting in 20th, 13.5, I think that's just a lot of potential there. We're going to move down. Denny Hamlin, starting in 14th. Again, I think a lot of people is going to be picking him. And it was tough to lay off the Hendrick guys this week. With Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Bowman, and Byron, they run well all at Charlotte. And they ran well in qualifying, and they ran well in practice. And they just ran well in general in the last 10 races. As of late. So it was tough to pass up on all those guys, but we made a lineup without them. I think that can prove good for us, because I think a lot of people may be considering them guys, especially like Byron at 10.5, especially Bowman's cheaper at 10,000, and he's starting in 7th, so he's got a little more room to improve. But we went without them this week, and I think that can be a decent strategy for us going into the race. Go down a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm about to say I lost my spot. Tyler Reddick, he's ran well at mile and a half this year, and that's really what I wanted to focus on. And starting in 15th, I think that's a good spot for him. Stenhouse, probably the riskiest pick of all of my lineup. 7,700, starting in 2nd. He virtually has nowhere to go but down, but if he can get you a top, I'd say 10, and complete all laps, it's totally worth it, 7,700. And that's what you really want to look for with him. And he can definitely do it. He's proven he can do it. And Chris Buescher, he is our cheapest option, starting at 27th. I think he'll be picked a lot. But he runs well here, and he runs well he's ran well this year at intermediate tracks. And I believe that'll do it this week.
All right, so there you see it. So we had similar strategies, but then there's other ways where we kind of faded and went around there. So that was a really good strategy on FanDuel. So by picking Ricky Stenhouse Jr., you're kind of taking away from that spot compared to where you would with Truex and Busch. So Truex starting in 8th, Kyle starting in 20th, or Larson, for that matter, starting in 1st. Do you think that the points differential from Stenhouse to Larson, will be that big of a difference? But, it probably won't be. FanDuel is really big on finishing position and laps. So the fact Stenhouse is starting that high up on FanDuel, more than likely, if barring nothing terrible happening, I think he'll run all the laps.
If you can stay in it and you can avoid trouble on pit road, I think that's a heck of a value for him.
Coke 600 is just known, and I know they got stage breaks now, but it's known to be long green flag runs, long race, not many wrecks.
Nope.
That's just the way Charlotte races. So, I think that's about it. So if you like what you see here, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, hit the bell notification that lets you know whenever our videos go live. Make a comment, questions, concerns. We'd love to answer them. Also, follow us on Twitter at TheSportsChief and on Instagram as well. Also on www.thesportschief.com.
Yeah.
We got some cool stuff going on there. Song of the day, wrestling articles, all kinds of stuff.
There's a pay-per-view this week in AEW.
There you go.
Same time as Coca-Cola 600, so that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so you can do like a mirror and mirror kind of thing.
Yeah,
Picture.
That's what I'll have to do.
Yep. All right, so best of luck to you, the Coke 600, and I hope everyone has a great Memorial Day weekend.
All right, thank you.